So here we go. So this is today's reading and photo, and it's titled, "You're Not One of Us, Are You?" How a Ukrainian soldier survived 2 weeks in a Russian dugout. Luke Harding in Odessa. So I guess Luke Harding has written this article, and presumably he's actually in Odessa. So that's in southern Ukraine on the coast. And it seems to be about this chap here, and I think his name is at the bottom of the photo here. So here we go here. Then it says, when Vadim Lietonov uh, spotted a fortified position after his own had been blown up, he didn't realize it belonged to the enemy. So this guy went to the enemy trenches. Okay, so let's scroll on. So it was first published yesterday, and this is in the newspaper The Guardian. This is in the Guardian online newspaper. So yesterday was Sunday, and Sunday's often reserved. They had like long stories sort of held over for Sunday because people have more time to read. So, Michael, over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The bombing began. The bomb begin began began.
Hmm.
The bombing began the morning after Vadim Letunov arrived on the front line. It went on for 6 or 7 hours each day. The Russians hit the dugout where he was sheltering with kamikaze drones and mortars. After every strike, Letunov and another Ukrainian soldier, Sasha, repaired the damage, extinguishing fires with bottles of urine and shoving clay-filled sacks back into position. The enemy knew we were there. It was trying to kill us, he said. In late February, Russian drone operators tried a new tactic. They sent in a Molniya drone carrying an anti-tank mine. It exploded next to the entrance, leaving the two soldiers confused and shaken. There were several similar attacks before Litunov heard an ominous buzz. This time, a mine fell on top of their foxhole. I look up and we've got on. I look up and we've got no roof. It blew everything up, he recalled. The blast tore off Sasha's. The blast. The blast tore. The blast tore off Sasha's legs. I'm fading, he said. Letonov realized that a second drone would soon finish off both of them. He tried to dig Sasha out, but realized he was dead and scrambled to the surface. Adrenaline pumping and still in his socks. Letunov started running in the direction of another Ukrainian soldiers. He kept going and spotted a fortified position among the trees. A blanket covered a doorway. I started shouting. I thought my guys were inside. Then I heard a rustling. I went into the dugout and saw a bloke in uniform aiming an automatic rifle at me. He said, I told him I was with such and such a brigade and had been bombed. The bloke said, come inside, come inside. Well, I went in, and then I heard his accent. He was Russian, Litvinov said.
Yes. Good. Well done. We'll leave it there. Just over the bottom of the page, aren't we? There we go. Okay. And yeah. Okay. Wow. Quite a story. But sometimes when you say the word story, it sounds like it might be made up. But it sounds realistic, doesn't it? I don't doubt this for a second, of course, really. So, any words there that you want to go back over again? Anything you want to talk about there?
Uh,
I don't,
began. Began. The bombing began.
Yeah, both. Well, those first couple of words really. So, bombing began. I would say
Bombing.
bombing began.
Bombing began.
Yeah, I think the second B is basically, I would say, silent, and it's always pretty much in every version of the word it comes out as silent really. So it's just bomb.
Bomb.
Yeah, although there's a B, which is just silent that second B. That's it. And began, I would say. That's how I would say began. Yeah. I noticed with your the British way of saying that name, the surname, we would definitely put the V sound on the end. We would, most Brits would, but I know it's sort of kind of pretty much silent, isn't it? It's more the O sound, isn't it? You hear, I think, in the sort of Russian and Ukrainian sounds. I think that's right, isn't it? But I'm happy to
I,
say it any way you want, really, to be honest. But that's the way the British would say it. Anything else there?
uh, uh, yeah.
Mm,
Ka- Kamikaze.
yeah,
Kamikaze. Huh.
that's the yeah. I think most Brits would say kamikaze. Yes, kamikaze, or even kamikaze. I know there's an I there, but I think a lot of people actually say kamikaze. But I think technically it's really kamikaze. Kamikaze. Kamikaze.
Kamikaze. In our
Yeah.
language, with D, we pronounce this word with D. Kamikaze.
Ah, yeah.
I,
Strange, isn't it?
I think kamikaze.
So I think so what language does that come from originally, do you know?
I think it's Japanese.
Yeah,
It's from
that's it.
Japan.
Yes, yes.
I think it's
And
for
even there, it came from the Mongol, when the Mongols tried to invade Japan in something like 1281, and I think it means something like divine wind. I think the kami bit means divine, and the last bit means wind. So it means divine wind, and we take this word to mean something that is sort of it will kill itself, but it will also kill you at the same time. So it's sort of very self-destructive. If it's kamikaze, it's self-destructive, you could say. But it meets its end as well as achieving its ultimate purpose. Okay. Yeah, carry on. Anything else? That's good.
and I don't know how correct pronounce mortars. Mortars.
Yeah,
Mort.
I didn't notice in particular when you said it, but yeah, I think you're pretty close when you read it out. So drones and mortars. Mortars.
Mortars. Mortars.
Yeah, mortars. Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So if even if it was spelled ER or OR, we'd probably say it the same way. Mortars, mortars. So it's that typical sort of ER sound on the end. Most words, I think, ER we sort of say the same way. Anything else? I think it was extinguish was good. There was something else there I noted. Can't think what it was now.
I don't repair the damage. Yes, extinguish fires
Hmm.
with bottle of urine.
Hmm.
Extinguish fires.
Yeah,
It's
that's good. Yeah. So extinguishing. So you've got ing there. So that's it.
extinguishing.
Extinguishing fires. So they've just been attacked, and they're doing lots of things one after another. Extinguishing fires with bottles of urine, because I guess they want to drink the water. They don't want to waste any water, so they get to end up with any urine they've got hanging around, I guess. So, so is it the word extinguishing? It's tricky for you. Extinguishing.
Ah,
So it's
yes.
to
I
put
don't.
out a
Yes,
fire. When you're putting out a
yes.
fire.
Extinguishing. It's like stop the fire. Yes,
Yes, that's it.
I
So,
think it's distinguish. Distinguish. Like differentiate. No, extinguish. Yeah, and that's make in this case it makes more sense. Extinguishing
yeah,
fires.
that's it. So stopping a fire, putting out a fire. That's it. You've got it. Anything else?
Mm.
I think you said that quite. I think you said that a couple of times. I'm not sure now. So shoving. Yeah. So shoving clay-filled sacks. So what's shoving? What does shoving mean? Shoving.
Shoving, it's like pull or drag. Uh,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
clay field sacks. It's like
Mm.
uh, the the military use the soldiers use this like
Yeah.
I don't know, fill the sack with clay or ground, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
protect from enemy. Use
Mm.
this like a barrier wall to
That's it.
protect.
Yes. A protection. That's it. It says here clay filled sacks. If it said sandbags, every Brit would know exactly what that is. So a bag full of sand. Yeah. But in this case, it's clay. But when they say clay, they could just simply say soil from the ground. So they dug up just soil out of the ground into a bag, and they're using it as a quick way to make a wall for protection against the next bomb or something, what's coming in. But the word shoving, I think you said about pulling more, but really shoving is more pretty much only about pushing. If you shove someone, you push them. And if you're shoving, you might be shoveling clay. No, that's different, isn't it? If you shove something, it's almost always about pushing, really. You're not pushing, really. You might shove a car or shove anything, I suppose. Yeah. So it's pushing, really. That's only a subtle difference, really, but I guess it does mean something. Yeah. Anything else? This little paragraph here, maybe?
Yeah, I don't. In the second paragraph, yes,
Hmm.
uh, it exploded next to the entrance, leaving the two soldiers
Ah, yeah.
confused and shaken. It's
So,
like
mm,
mm, it's like contusion. I don't know.
no, no. Yeah, it sounds similar, doesn't it? But that's different. So a contusion really is a cut, isn't it, in the skin, pretty much, unless I'm wrong. But concussed, you can only get concussed if you're hit on the head, I think, really. So if you hit on the head badly enough, you may be knocked out. You may lose consciousness. But if you're concussed, it's more that your brain has been shaken a little bit and you're suffering the ill effects of that, concussed. This is a medical term, so let's pop it in there. So it's the past tense, concuss, I suppose. If you to concuss, it means to be hit, or to hit, I should say. And to suffer from concussion, if you're suffering from concussion, that's the same thing, of course. If someone is concussed, oh, I didn't realize that. They lose consciousness or feel sick or confused because they've been hit hard on the head. Concussed. I didn't realize you had to lose concussion. You had to lose consciousness. In other words, it sort of looks like you almost fall asleep on the ground for a moment or two, or perhaps a little bit longer, of course. I didn't realize to be concussed, you had to lose consciousness. I didn't realize that. But it can be quite serious. I mean, it can kill you, as I'm sure you might tell me. But it might just be rest for an hour and you'll be okay, of course. So there's a couple of sentences here. Let me read them to you. So, my left arm is badly bruised and I was slightly concussed. He was badly winded and concussed. If someone says they're winded, it means they've been hit in the stomach or the chest, and all of the wind has been pushed out of them. All the air in their lungs, sort of, has been pushed out of them. It's sort of saying they can't breathe very easily at the moment. But hopefully that clears up very quickly within a minute or two. So, so do you know what concussed is now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's concussion is probably the more normal term, I suppose. So thank you, thank you. And shaking, of course. So these two can go together, of course. Anything else there?
Uh, oh, foxhole. I think it's the meaning like dog out,
Yeah,
but
that's it.
it's
It's
for. I think it's maybe for one or. or no, it's for one person. It's one soldier
Mm,
dig the hole for
yeah.
himself. It's usually for one person
Um,
in my mind. I don't know.
yeah, that's right. So they're saying a foxhole is a small hole dug as a shelter from the enemy from which they can shoot. We we froze but spent night in foxholes. So they got it plural there. But it doesn't specify just for one, but it does say small hole. So yeah, I think that yeah. But I have heard the idea that it might be a slightly bigger one, so there might be more than one person in there. I don't know also if we sort of make an exact we're exactly that sort of precise about, oh, this is a one person hole or a two-person hole in the West at the moment because we're not at war and we're not used to the necessity of having precision in the language about what size the hole is. So it's interesting you mentioned that. So a foxhole is smaller than a dugout or a trench, let's say. Okay, yeah. Anything else? Oh, there was that bit
Omnio,
there. You count those words? Can you just say those again, maybe? Those two bits there.
no, omnius bus, omnius,
Yeah, so
omnios, omnios bus,
yeah, you're you're almost there. You're almost there. Let's hope I can say it. So an ominous buzz, an ominous. That's what it says. Ominous. Yeah,
and
ominous,
ominous bus.
ominous. Yes, ominous. So if something's ominous, it's sort of worrying and concerning, and sometimes it might mean a particular thing. So if you hear the a bell ring, you know particularly what that bell means. But so somewhat worrying and not
Yes, it's
annoying, but worrying buzz. Okay, and presumably that's related to him being concussed. Do you just want to say concussed again? I didn't hear you say it. So concussed.
concussed and
Yeah,
shaken.
yeah, you've got it.
But in this omnibus bus, it's I think it's ominous bus. It's the sound which produce the drones.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're probably right there. Yeah.
You
So
don't
there
see,
were
but
several similar assets. Yes,
yeah.
there were several similar attacks before Lyatonov heard an ominous buzz. Yeah, so it isn't quite clear. Yeah, so it's been a little while later, several similar attacks, and then another one. Yeah. So the buzz is probably the drone, isn't it? And it says, this time a mine fell on top of their foxhole. I looked up and we've got no roof. It blew everything up, he recalled. Okay. Anything down here?
I'm fading.
Yeah.
He said it's like I'm dying
Yeah.
or fading.
Yes.
Yeah. Like fade, it's like I become less. Uh,
Yeah.
the light is fade. It's fading.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, and often in English anyway, we talk about soldiers, old soldiers fading away. Not often, I mean, but we can
Mm.
do. And so it's just a way of saying that this is how soldiers die. They fade away. Strange. Okay, so it's very appropriate. Anything else there?
Uh, the I don't know. It's like
Hmm.
phrase adrenaline or adrenaline, adrenaline,
I think, yeah, I noticed you said adrenal. I think you said adrenaline. That's it. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we say adrenaline. So we say lin, I think.
adrenaline, adrenaline. Yeah,
Adrenaline, yeah.
we
I
also
suppose the
Adre
lin, yeah. That's it,
adrenaline pump
adrenaline.
and stealing his socks.
Yeah.
What does it mean? It's pumping and stealing his socks. It's like
So if you're in your socks, it sounds like you're sort of half undressed. He may not have his shirt on. He may only have his socks on, maybe. That's all he's wearing. I mean, if you're at war, you probably don't take, in all seriousness, you wouldn't take your clothes off, would you? But it sounds like he's not ready. For some reason, he's not ready for this, it sounds like. If you're still in your socks, it sounds like he's just got out of bed and he's got no trousers on, and all he's got on are his socks, maybe to keep his feet warm because it's winter time, perhaps. But I don't really know, to be honest. I'm guessing a little bit. There was this word just a few words above adrenaline, so let's say all three of them. So, and if it was the ed ending, didn't sound quite right. So we'd say here, scrambled to the surface.
Crum-
Scrambled. Yeah,
Crumbled
yeah,
to the
scrambled.
surface.
Yeah.
Crumbled.
So if you scramble, you're not walking, you're probably on all fours. So you're resting on your hands and your knees on the ground, and you're both of them are going furiously trying to drag you forward. Your hands are grabbing the ground, trying to drag yourself forward, and your knees are doing something similar. And you're sort of walking a little bit like a dog, but chaotically. But you are gradually moving forward. Or in this case, he's sort of half digging himself towards the surface because I guess he's underground, isn't he? So knocking Saul out the way and okay. So when it says here a blanket covered the doorway, what does that mean? Any idea? Or
And there are no doors in dugout,
yeah,
and usually
hmm.
troops, the soldiers use some material
Yeah,
which cover the doorway.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
uh,
So it's not a proper door.
entrance, entrance, yes, entrance into the dugout.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. And the last bit down here, that one.
I started what my guys inside. I saw a block.
Mm.
I, I understand someone with automatic rifle, but I saw a block.
Yeah.
And the block said, yeah,
Mm.
it's
So a bloke is you could put the word man in there. Man.
mm,
I saw a man. The man said same sort of thing. It's a very informal way of talking about a man. So it's not a woman. It's only a man can be a bloke, and that's it really. I think, isn't it? Yeah. And I cut you off at the very bottom. You couldn't quite see the very end somewhere down here, but it does finish it. Okay. Um, so the tricky words, I think. So you had concussed. I think that's right. I think you have that one, but maybe heard an ominous buzz might be a bit more helpful. I think so. The word ominous. So it's ominous, ominous.
ominous, ominous,
No, no, it's more ominous. But when you say it quickly, it comes out as ominous, ominous. So just try again, ominous.
ominous,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty good, I'd say. That's it. And I think one of the occasions we said this thing here. So this is a mine. It it sounded a lot more like man, but I think you just misread it probably. So we say it as mine anyway. Mine. Gosh. Maybe that word again there, just as practice.
scrambled,
Yeah, that's it.
scrambled,
Ah,
scrambled,
no, the first one, the first one. So
scrambled, scrambled,
scrambled. That's it. Scrambled.
scrambled, scrambled, so
Scrambled. Scrambled.
scrambled,
So it's the past tense of your hands going furiously on the ground and your knees at the same time trying to move somewhere along the ground or through the ground in his case. But most of the time nowadays, if in England right now, we might say, "Oh, can I have some scrambled, please?" We might say that. And what we're saying is, we're saying, what can I have some scrambled eggs? If you've gone to a
Mhm.
restaurant or a cafe, let's might say, oh, can I have scrambled eggs on toast? And so that's eggs, and a little bit of salt is added to it, maybe something else, I don't quite know. I've never made it myself, not recently anyway. And with a fork, you scramble up the eggs, you stir up the eggs, you break up the eggs with your stirring them over heat, and it makes like a big sort of yellow mess. And when it's cooked, after a few minutes, you put it on toast and you eat it. So that's quite commonly eaten in the UK. Scrambled eggs. Okay. Does anyone else have any little questions about this thing here? Any other little queries or things I didn't explain properly, maybe? Anyone else? So Ruslan or Giuseppe?
I want to say before you ask what can mean a blanket cover a doorway. To my mind, it's actually some kind of protection of drones, because I
Hmm.
guess a drone can fly inside
Yeah.
a dugout, and this is a blanket can stop fly
Yeah.
inside.
Yes, it will hopefully might catch in the rotors, the blades which hold
Yeah,
it up.
yeah,
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 that's true.
some kind like this. Yeah, yeah.
But also a blanket over the doorway. I mean, there might well the enemy might well know that there are people in there. If there's a blanket over the doorway, they can't see someone walking by. If they can't see someone walking by, well, they might not know, or perhaps they're not there at the moment. And if someone's walking by, you might get shot, of course. So it just means that there's no movement will be visible. If you have any light inside, that will block the light, as well as on top of that, any drones. So there are lots of benefits. But normally you wouldn't have the doorway facing the enemy, you'd be facing away from the enemy if you knew where the enemy was, of course, when you dug the dugout. And yeah, that's a really good point actually. So well done, thank you for that. Anything else?
A quick question about
Mm,
bloke, Tony.
mm,
I heard
mm.
chap as a definition of
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Is that a synonym of bloke, chap? Is that the same?
Uh, the word bloke, it sounds a little bit lower class than
Mhm.
chap. So I would say
Okay.
there's different classes there, you would say. So a bloke is a man. He is a really nice bloke. I think I think it's a little bit more men would talk about other men using the word bloke.
Okay.
Chap could also be a man as well. I suppose ladies might be more likely to say guy, Guy, but it depends, I guess, perhaps on the age as well, on who is saying it. Older people might be more likely to say man. Yeah, so it doesn't come up with chap though, does it? They're saying it's British and Australian and formal for man. Not sure what that means. But it does say chap here. So in America, they say a man, a fellow. We would never say fellow in the UK, at least not now. Maybe 100 years ago in Cambridge, you might talk about a fellow, or in Oxford might talk about fellows. And so in Cambridge and Oxford, the people who attend the college are fellows, often referred to as fellows. Um, but in America, they say chap seems more likely. So I'm just trying. So is a fellow, is that a, let me just double check this. I just said, so in a college, there would be uh, lecturers, you could say, and there would be dons, etc. So does it say, is a fellow a man, or is it, you use fellow to describe people who are in the same situation as you? Yeah, fellow traveller, I might say, yes. Um, a fellow is a man or a boy. Oh, I didn't realize that. It's interesting. Your fellows, your equals really, are the people you work with, do things with, maybe the same way as you. Oh, then it says college. So yeah, no, colleague, I should say, not college, but co-worker. A fellow of an academic or a professional association is someone who is specifically elected member of it, usually because of their work or achievements as a mark of honor. Okay, so yeah, there are some other. So sometimes you might say a fellow, but that does sound very, very antiquated if you're just saying the word man. Okay, but yeah, yeah, there is a similarity between chap and bloke, definitely, definitely, and man. Okay, some good questions there. So, Ruslan, are you up to having a quick read here?
Sorry, say it again.
So, it's your turn, Ruslan.
Ah, yeah, okay, I'm ready, yeah.
Okay, so if I just finish this little bit off here, because this was just at the bottom of the
Okay.
page for you, Michael. So, if I just read this bit, and then it's over to you, Ruslan, for this bit down here where my cursor is. But I'll read this bit in yellow. I'll read this bit in yellow for the moment. So, the bloke said, "Come inside." Well, I went in, and then I heard his accent. He was Russian. Lieutenant said, he said, I said, "You are not one of us, are you? Please don't kill me." So he said, "You are not one of us, are you? Please don't kill me." So the Ukrainian saying to the Russian, "You're not one of us, please don't kill me." So now it's over to you.
Mm.
You get to
Okay
the top
then.
of the page. There's quite a lot to read here, but just read as much as you want to read. Maybe
Yeah.
down to there or whatever you fancy,
Okay.
really.
Okay. I will see. Okay.
So over the next
Over the
2 weeks.
next 2 weeks, a surreal and astonishing story of wartime survival took place underground. As 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 the two soldiers got to know each other, Russian and Ukrainian soldiers rarely sit and talk during their long and beat, uh, bitter war. As the drones fly farther and the kill zone gets bigger, stretching 25 kilometers in both directions. There is a little direct contact of gunfire. Exactly. There is a little direct contact or gunfire. Virtually all injuries and deaths are caused by remote explosions. The Russian soldier Nikita ordered Lutino into a tiny underground chamber, telling him, "You are unarmed. I won't shoot you." He showed the Ukrainian a Christian cross he had made from two wooden planks. Written on it were the words "Save and Protect." His Carter said, his Carter said he would let him go the next morning. He didn't. Lieutenant awaiting a bullet at any moment.
Hmm. Yes, that was really well read, actually. Well done. Very good.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's not a great deal I can point out there. So, anything you want to ask about that? A little bit there.
Yeah, there is some
Hmm.
words which is not unclear for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Okay, and now let's start with astonishing story. It's like, yeah, it's like real, yeah, something
Um.
serious.
Well, the word astonishing. If I put another word in there, I might say amazing. amazing, or
Uh,
perhaps surprising.
it's
Surprising.
like a sarcasm, yeah? Sarcasm,
Sarcasm?
yeah.
Not really, no. With sarcasm, you're sort of making fun of somebody else with sarcasm.
Okay.
So in a perhaps in a nice way, maybe in a nasty way. So it's sort of a joke if you if sarcasm. But with something that's astonishing, it just means it's surprising, amazing,
Oh,
not
okay.
expected, perhaps
Oh,
slightly unbelievable,
yeah,
possibly.
yeah. Not expected,
But
yeah.
yeah, so but when I say it's almost it's if you say unbelievable, it sounds like oh this can't be true. But sometimes you say unbelievable, but you're just saying this is a incredible story. It's really wonderfully amazing story. So sometimes you say incredible, and an incredible sort of means oh this can't be believed. You might think, but not always. Is another way of saying surprising, really. Yeah, but yeah, I think your pronunciation of this word is spot on. That's it. So, do you want to say it a couple more times? So
As
astonishing. Yeah,
astonishing.
yeah, you've got it. Yeah, yeah, you've got it. Yeah, very good. Um, there is this word before it though. So, and you said that one okay too. I think really. So, do you want to say that one as well? That word there.
Yeah. Surreal.
Yeah,
Surreal.
yeah, yeah. That's it. That's pretty good actually. I would say yes. Surreal, surreal. That's it.
How about survival? Yeah, is okay as well.
Ah, when you read out
So,
survival, I did notice it didn't sound quite right when you read it out the very first time. Better. You're better now. So it's survival, survival.
survival. Okay.
Yeah, survival, survival. Okay.
How about a bite war? Long
Yeah,
and
that
beat,
was the,
bite war.
yeah. You're not almost there. So that's bitter,
A
bitter.
bitter.
So you know if you eat normally with the word bitter, it's to do with food. Some often with food.
Yeah.
So if you put too much, if you put salt on your tongue, that basically tastes incredibly bitter. Salt. If you put salt on your tongue, that's bitter, I
I
would say.
have some example with a milk. If milk spoiled, it actually tastes like bitter,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, it goes a little bit acidic, and that would be bitter. That's true. Yes, bitter,
Bitter.
bitter. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think I think there is a sort of a technical description of what bitterness is, but yeah. So in terms of food, it's sort of sour. It's slightly acidic. That's right. Um, But when we're talking this sort of sentence, this sort of idea here, I guess the meaning is similar meaning really. So unpleasantness, certainly, very unpleasant, something you wouldn't want
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So long and bitter war. Do you want to just say those few words together? Long and bitter war.
Long and bitter war.
Yeah, bitter, bitter.
Bitter.
Yeah, that's
Bitter
it.
war.
That sounds pretty good, bitter. So really, in a sense, it sounds a little bit like the second letter of the Greek alphabet. Which I'm not quite sure that helps a great deal saying that. So I would say the second letter of the Greek alphabet is spelt this way, and the word ominous came on. I'm not quite sure why that came on. And bitter.
Bitter.
So as I say both of these words, you hear similar they are. So beta and bitter, beta and bitter. So, mm, yeah. So I guess what I'm highlighting is the A on the end just sounds very similar to the ER there. But yeah, okay. Just like anything
How
else
about
there?
as drones fly
Mm.
farther, farther,
Yeah, yeah.
farther,
Um,
yeah?
yeah, you're saying it's more further. Yeah,
Further,
further, I would say. Yeah,
further.
it's similar meaning to father,
Mm,
father,
Yeah,
but it's yeah.
yeah,
They can be both to do with distance. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Y- yeah.
Mm,
Perhaps it should be. I don't know. Really. I thought your virtually was quite good. I like that. Virtually. That's
mm.
a tricky sound. Virtually. I like noticed that when you said that. Um,
Yeah, how about
Hmm.
into a tiny underground
Mm.
chamber.
Mm. Ah, yes.
Chamber. Yeah, it is chamber. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good pronunciation. Is I think when you read it out, it sounded even better. So it's more chamber,
A
chamber.
chamber.
Yeah, that's it. Spotted.
What is actually? It is like a dog out. Yeah, dog out.
Um, yeah, that's where they are. That's where they are. But the word chamber basically just means room, room,
A room
room.
underground. Yeah.
No, it just the word chamber just means room. It just
Oh,
means room. It used to be back in the 300 years ago. They often talked about chambers.
chamber.
And it's their way
Yeah.
of saying room. If you go to see a lawyer or nowadays, he will say, "Come to my chambers." Come to my chambers, and he means come to my rooms. It's his rooms where he conducts his office, where he conducts his business, I should say. It's
Yeah.
where a
Okay.
lawyer
Okay.
works. So some businesses use this name nowadays, even
Yeah.
nowadays. It just
Yeah.
means room.
Mm.
Anything else?
Yeah. Actually, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
The rest is okay.
okay. I thought it was
Last one, yeah, he's a
mm.
captor. He's
Ah,
captor.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. You got it now, I think. Yeah, that's it. So his captor said, that's right, his
He's
captor.
captor. So
So
yeah,
that's right. If you're sort of the prisoner of somebody, you
yeah,
are their captor, or he is your captor. So
yeah.
you're the
It's
prisoner, let's say, and he is the captor. He has captured you.
I guess as well. It is in some way connected, like a captured. Yeah, to be
Yeah.
captured.
Yes, that's right. It's the same idea. That's it. Captured. I've
Captured.
been captured. My capture has captured me. I am now
Yeah,
in captivity.
yeah, yeah,
Captivity. Yeah, that's it.
yeah,
I think they're
yeah.
all related. So that's very good. You had a little bit of a shorter reading there. Let me read it back to you. It might remind me of some little things I think came up. I'll try to read that bit back there to you.
Okay.
Um, So over the next 2 weeks, actually, when you said the word two, it didn't something didn't sound quite right there. So just no, just this word. It's just two, two. So
So
I think it
yeah,
was the
over the
W.
next 2 weeks.
Although there's a W there, it can be a bit misleading, really, I think, because it is pronounced exactly the same way as TO and TOO. They all sound exactly the same. Yeah. Okay, so over the next 2 weeks, a surreal. Sometimes when we use the word surreal, it could be something that's funny, something that's comical. Sometimes comedy can be
Okay.
surreal, but the word itself really means sort of not reality or not our real, not normal reality. That sort of. So real is reality, you could say, but the "sir" on the front of it sort of says, I think it's the French term, isn't it, or perhaps Belgium, I can't remember now. But it sort of means not real reality, a kind of a crazy reality. And if you think about war, that is pure craziness, isn't it? So, but sometimes we do talk about things if they're funny and we say they're surreal. But in this case, it's in the opposite direction. It's terrible. It's this. Well, I won't go any further than that. Okay.
Like a
So
cruel, yeah, cruel.
I wouldn't say the word surreal doesn't really mean cruel. It sort of means everything turned on its head. I would say everything upside down. Things that
Okay.
would never normally happen are now happening. Like there's a fish riding a bicycle. That doesn't normally
Okay.
happen, but in a surreal world, it would. It might do. Perhaps I should say.
Nowadays, AI can create whatever you want
And
to do.
does. Yeah, and does. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Very true. Very well spotted. Yeah, we haven't mentioned AI for 25 minutes, and yeah, so you're dead right, of course. So over the next, oh, the third or fourth time I said this now. So over the next 2 weeks, a surreal and astonishing story of wartime survival took place underground as the two soldiers got to know each other. Russian and Ukrainian soldiers rarely sit and talk during their long and bitter war. As drones fly further and the kill zone gets bigger, stretching 25 kilometers in both directions, there is little direct contact or gunfire. Virtually all injuries and deaths are caused by remote explosions. So, so Ruslan, what does it mean when it says remote explosions? What does the remote bit mean? I guess really. So
It just
virtually,
means
yeah,
remote. It just means it is not close. It is
yeah,
in some distance. Yeah,
yeah. That's pretty. That's it really. Yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And explosion. It is yeah, bomb actually.
yeah, basically a bomb. Yeah. Um, you, or just a big bang, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But normally it's a bomb that's exploding, isn't it? In a
yeah.
wartime.
In and virtually. Yeah,
Yeah.
virtually.
Mm.
I would replace it like uh,
Mm.
overall. Yeah, we can say overall all injuries.
Okay. Yeah,
For
that's
example, like
mm.
this.
That would be one
Obviously,
interpretation. Yeah.
sorry, what?
I think I like I very much like what you're saying. You're highlighting one way of what this sentence means. I like that. Yeah. So you're saying overall,
Yeah,
most or all injuries
yeah,
are caused. Sorry, injuries and deaths are
yeah,
caused by remote explosions. Yes, I
yeah,
think that's true.
yeah.
I like that. But there is another way we use the word virtually.
Mhm.
So I don't know which this sentence might mean what you're saying and it might mean what I'm saying, but I have an idea it's somewhere between the two. So we talk about virtual reality, don't we? Virtual reality nowadays.
Yeah,
So what's virtual reality?
it is like
Hmm.
through the some modern device which
Yeah.
help us to live.
Yeah, that's that sort of thing, isn't it? Sometimes we just say VR, and you can buy VR headsets. You put them over your head, and as long as they're connected to the right sort of software and computers, etc., they can show you um, what we refer to as virtual reality. When you look at the screen in front of you, it looks a lot like real life, but there are other things which have been sort of with the aid of the computer are shown in front of you, which you wouldn't normally see with your eyes if you weren't wearing the goggles or the VR headset. So it puts on the screen that with a VR headset or virtual reality puts on the screen in front of you things which are there in real life and other things which aren't there in real life, but they add or aid you in your real life if you use the VR headset. I haven't explained that at all well. Hopefully, you understand already what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
And I wonder if this is what they're talking about, because sometimes these drones are controlled with men, normally men, could be women too, I guess, wearing VR headsets, and they sort of guide them to explode somewhere. So I wonder if maybe they're hinting at that as well as what you said. I wonder if they are, but maybe not. Because also you could say if they're using the VR headset, you could say they are remote from the explosion. They are remote. That's also how you talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes we talk about remote control of something, and so it's controlled perhaps by a radio or something like that, or a long wire controlled something, or a bomb, or it could be a car as well or something. So after the word remote, we might sometimes put the word control in there. So caused by remote control explosions might be the way of putting it. But I like what you said. I think there's more. It's more likely to be what you said, but I think there's a little bit of a degree or an idea of what I just mentioned too. So well said, Ruslan. Well said. So let me just finish the rest of this, and then we'll go over to Giuseppe. If that's okay. So it's just turning 7 right now. Okay, so the Russian the Russian soldier Nikita ordered Lieutenov into a tiny underground chamber, telling him, "You are unarmed. I won't shoot you." He showed the Ukrainian a Christian cross he had made from 2 wooden planks. Written on it were the words "Save" and "Protect." His captor said he would not let him go until the not let him go. He would let him go the next morning. He didn't. Lieutenov awaited a bullet at any moment. Okay. So, any other questions from anybody else about this little bit here we've read? Any other questions? Otherwise, straight over to Giuseppe. Okay, Giuseppe.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it starts out with the Ukrainian, a 34-year-old. There you go. Over to you.
Yeah, the Ukrainian, a 34 years old corporal from the southern city of Odessa, realized his only chance of survival was to manipulate his captor. As a teenager, he had read books on psychology, and Nikita, he discovered, was a drug addict and petty criminal who had been freed from jail to fight in Ukraine. He ran away from battle, got captured, and was sent back to the front. His commander, a Chechen, barked commands from a radio. Nikita told Letonov to strip and searched his clothes and belt in the hope of finding drugs, believing Kremlin propaganda that Ukrainian servicemen were narcomaniacs, fitted with secret GPS trackers. On the walls of the dugout were pasted letters from Russian school children. All were identical. He insisted Russia's army was the best in the world, but in reality, Nikita was cold, hungry, and alone. Once a day, a Mavic drone dropped 250 grams of rations, a packet of porridge, jam, and a small bottle of water.
Yeah, really good reading. Very, very good. So, anything you want to ask about that? Anything else you want to discuss or look at?
About me, was it? Yeah, there was an adjective describing
Hmm.
Nikita. I don't know where it is.
Maybe that one.
Oh, petty. Yes, petty
Oh,
criminal.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. Your pronunciation is perfect. So if the word petty really means small, you could say
Okay.
the word petty means small. So we may also say a lot of offices, if you work in the UK, an office might have a petty cash box somewhere.
Mhm.
And in that, with that, so there's money in a box set aside, £2 or £3, nothing, perhaps of £10, something like that. And the people in the office use it as money to buy tea and biscuits. A small amount of money that people just use in the office. So small is basically the meaning. You'd also get petty officers. An officer in one of the forces, sometimes referred to as a petty officer. I don't know the exact meaning of that, but that's another use of the word as a noun. Anything else there?
Oh, no, narcoman extract. packet of porridge, jam,
Yeah.
small bottle of water. Yeah.
It, it, it's quite extraordinary. Here's some of the detail here. So a Mavic drone coming over and dropping little bits of food and water. That's the detail. It's not something we necessarily hear about in the West at the moment, I guess.
Yeah, probably every drone has its role, and
Yeah,
probably, unfortunately, Michael
yeah.
can confirm as it only also its sound.
Oh, and the sound. Okay. So you've heard a few drones, then, have you? With this line here, I think we got to these two words, so barked commands. They weren't very
Commands.
clear, I think, when you said them. So what do you take that to mean, that little bit there? So what does that mean, that bit?
Yeah, I think the author wants to describe the voice, the tone
Yeah.
of the commander, like a dog barking and maybe shouting commands from the radio, and also because voice is changed by the radio itself. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very true. Very, I couldn't say anything else on that, really. Yeah, so often with the word bark, we associate that with dogs, but also, so the animal which we call dogs, but often we do talk about commands being barked. Normally, when we don't like the commands or the very harsh commands, we talk about them being barked. So it's kind of said at you in a very harsh way or shouted at you in quite a harsh way. That's it. Anything else? Nothing else is there? Uh, Just very little details I noticed. So most people in the UK would say narco maniacs. I think he said maniacs, maniacs. Most UK people would say maniacs, maniacs. Yeah. So what is a narco maniac? Would you say, Giuseppe? What do you think that is?
or I think something in between a person who is addicted, who is
Mm,
seeking for drugs,
mm,
and whose life is devoted to drugs and other kind of substances, I think. So
mm,
everything goes around drugs. So
mm.
I,
Uh, I'm not quite sure in the UK if we would ever use this phrase. So it sounds very sort of manufactured, and they've got it in quotes, so and a sort of hyphen between the two. It's interesting. So narco in America, everyone in America knows exactly what that is. So that's short for narcotics. Narcotics. And so narcotics are a particular class of drugs which technically are meant to make you a bit more sleepy, I think, aren't they? But I think that sort of detail is lost. So a lot of people just like taking drugs for the hell of it, don't they? Or addicted to it, and they can't really help themselves. Yeah. So narco is probably here. It's short for narcotics, and if you're a maniac of anything, it just means you're sort of out of control. Your person is out of control, and you pretty much can't control something that you are doing. The thing that you're doing, it's pretty much controlling you, and it's making you do the thing. And if you're addicted to drugs, that's really what we're talking about here, isn't it?
yeah, I think they reach such a level of addiction they can inject every kind of or inhale every kind of substance
Yeah,
um, that resemble drugs or has some
yeah,
effects on your brain.
yeah. Let's just take the substance anyway. Let's see what happens. Ah, and I notice this word here too. So with pronunciation, I think you said it rations. I can't remember how you said it now. So, but we normally say this as rations. Rations.
Russians,
Yeah. So it sounds a little bit like Russians, I think, when I heard it then. But we say rations. So ra,
Ru-
ra, rations, rations.
Russians.
That sounds quite good. Yes, rations. Let's stick it in the dictionary. So, any idea what rations are? What are rations? So
Oh,
not Russian. Yeah,
the amount, a fixed amount of
yeah, yeah.
food
That's
or
it. Yeah. So if something is in short supply, like there's a shortage of oil at the moment, sometimes it might get rationed. So they say, okay, you can have so many gallons or liters or whatever it is. So it could be petrol. You might get a ration of petrol at the petrol station because there's less of it around at the moment, and that's a way of controlling it. So everyone gets a fair amount. You still have to pay for it. Still have to pay the certain amount, whatever it is. And with a ration, often talk about ration book or a ration card, and that's another way of controlling how much you get of a certain thing that's on ration. So it might also say on ration. And so if something's on ration, simply means it is being rationed. Does that make sense to everybody when I say rations? So it sounds a little bit like Russians, but I'm saying another word, ration. Okay.
rush.
So ration and Russian. Okay. Okay. Very, very good reading. There's nothing else I could really say about that. So the words we had were maniacs. Do you just say them again? So maniacs,
Maniacs,
maniacs.
maniacs,
Ah, it's even better. And rations,
Russians,
rations.
Russians.
Yeah. I can hear a little bit of Russians in there, a little bit of Russians. But you're getting the idea, I think. So maybe practice that one. So rations. Let's just do both of them, maybe. That's one way of comparing the two sounds, I think, isn't it? So we're talking about rations and Russians. I have to laugh, really. So the top one is rations, and Russians. Clearly, it's the vowel sound just here. So ra. The first one up here is rations, and this one is ra, ra. Russians. Do you want to do both of them then? So the top one is your one. You'll go.
Okay. Russians, Russians.
Hmm. They sound a little bit too close, I think. And your bottom one sounds great, but it's still the top one. It still sounds a little bit like the bottom one. So, rations.
Russians.
Yeah, yeah. Let's hear these guys here say the word. Let's search it. Maybe that will help a little bit. So I'll just click search. So yeah, let's listen to them.
Russian,
Ooh, he does sound a bit Russian, doesn't he?
Russian,
Ration. Well, let's put the S on the end. Does that make any difference? So I'm saying rations.
Russians,
Oh, that does sound a bit different. So his pronunciation for the without the just singular is different from the plural, I would say. So let's listen to his plural again. And maybe you can copy it, Michael, if you can. Not Michael, Giuseppe.
Russians,
Russians. Yeah, you'll go.
Russians.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're copying him quite well, actually. Yeah, okay. I think we'll leave it there. That's good. Okay. So, does anyone else have any questions about this little bit here that we just that Giuseppe's read out? So Giuseppe just read this bit here. Any questions about this? Any other little bits?
Question, just
Mm.
yeah, I want to know about pronunciation of yeah, on the walls of the dugout were posted, posted. What, how we can say it?
Pasted.
Pasted, pasted.
Pasted.
It is like a post-it, yeah?
Yeah, similar. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Pasted.
Well, I suppose when you say pasted, you know, with your computer, you can say copy and
Mhm.
paste.
Yeah,
Copy and
but
paste with your
actually
computer.
it is
It's
not
the same
like a,
same idea. It's the same idea. It's not so much posted. They could almost have put the word posted in there, but there's slightly different meaning, I would say. Um,
but I understand it if it
yeah,
paste,
yeah.
it should have some, for example, if it in a room inside, we should have some shelf or some
Mm, yeah. Hmm.
surface where we can put something. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
but here about the walls, and I understand that it is just straight walls without
Yeah.
any, I don't know, shelves.
Um, well, when you dig a hole in the ground, if it's a small hole, it just
Yeah.
holds itself together. But I'm sure you're aware, when you dig a much bigger hole, the soil is quite soft and it just collapses in on itself. So you can't really dig a straight down hole without it collapsing. So I would have thought if it's going to survive this hole in the ground, this dugout, is going to have wood lining the wall to some degree. So it doesn't say what the walls are made of, but it said elsewhere, didn't it, that it was a chamber underground, so a room underground. It has to have wood on the walls and some sort of roof holding the soil up above your head. Otherwise, it would just collapse down.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, it
okay.
might just be logs. It might just be logs against the wall. It might not be proper wood that you might buy in the shop in the shop in London or something. There might just be logs that have been cut or trees that have been cut down, and they are used as the wall, possibly. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So good question though. But let's just look at pasted anyway. So it's paste on, because it's hopefully it's just simply the past tense of put the D on there makes it past tense. So paste in itself could be the glue which you use to hold up a piece of paper on the wall. So you might put glue on the wall, and sometimes you might refer to the glue itself as paste.
Yeah,
Um,
it's actually what I thought, that it's actually should be like a glue on a
glue,
wall. Yeah, like a
yeah,
glue,
glue, yeah, glue,
glue. Yeah, glue.
glue. That's it. So, and also another meaning of the word is in cooking. So you might have tomato paste and fish paste sandwiches. So if you mash up fish very finely, you sort of squash it with a fork or something else, you get a paste. So the fish turns into paste, and you might then spread it thinly on a sandwich. And then as a verb, it says, if you paste something on a surface, you put glue or paste on it and stick it on the surface. So that's doing it. So you might say, I've pasted that on the wall. Does that make sense? So it's an action you've done, and you use the noun paste, and you've pasted it on the wall. So again, so the word stick becomes the same meaning as paste. So stick something on the wall or fix something on the wall becomes paste it on the wall or cement. I'm avoiding the word glue. So, okay. Yeah, thank you. So, okay. It's about 20 past 7 now. We could read a little bit more if you guys wanted to. I find it interesting here that so he was getting daily drops of water. When I say drops, so well, they use drops here, but I say drops in the sense that the drone was dropping water from above. So So it's they know presumably know exactly where this chap is, and they're dropping food down to him and water. So let me read a little bit further on, and maybe you can listen this time. You can correct me. Then it says, whoops. So he suffered from extreme mood swings. So this sounds like the Russian, not the Ukrainian. It sounds like the Ukrainian describing what's happening. Then it said he he would turn into a maniac, put a gun to my forehead and say, "I'm going to kill you right now." Lutenov recalled, "I started praying. Then there is silence. I hear him put the gun down to one side. He just changed his mind in a second. How can I explain it?" Well, but I think I'm sure I have heard of stories, say, even in the Russian training, they do this kind of thing to you, perhaps as a way to break you. So Russians do this to other Russian soldiers and put the gun to your head if you're not obeying them properly. You're not doing something quickly enough, or you don't want to do what they do. So it's a way of breaking someone's spirit if you pretend to execute them, but then don't quite carry it out. So I think it's a well-known technique, isn't it, in sort of psychology. Okay, so let's scroll on. So Lyutenov decided to play dumb. So I'm saying dumb. So the final B is silent. So I'm really just saying dumb, dumb. Okay, it's silent, the final B there. So decided to play dumb. So that means decided to pretend to be a bit stupid. Decided to pretend not to understand, not be very clever. Then it says, I'll read it, carry on then. So it says, I could see Nikita was a bit thick, but I gave the impression I was the stupid one. I could have run away, but I didn't, so he would trust me more, he said. Lutenov said he started to lose it. When one of his toes went black with gangrene and asked Nikita to shoot him outside so his body would be seen and returned to his family. He got angry and refused. He was afraid to go outside because he knew it was dangerous, the Ukrainian explained. I didn't read that very well. I kept stopping and starting, and it's not entirely clear who is saying what or what is happening to who. But do you think you understand what's happening there? Any questions about that little bit that I just read out? Anything you want to ask, or do you want me to read? Do you want to try reading it? Or yeah.
Logic. Ukrainian soldier asked him to shoot him uh,
Mm,
outside the shelter, yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
but he rejected. But
Yeah.
it actually from one side it is dangerous because he could him shot inside and just
Mm,
put him away and that's it. Actually,
yeah.
I wouldn't do like this if I were them. Yeah, if I were him, yeah, I wouldn't ask like this request, you know.
Uh,
You
but
know
but
what I mean, yeah?
mm, but who are you in this? You said I wouldn't do this. You said it's not. When I read this out, it wasn't clear who I was talking about half of the time because I kept stopping and starting, and I didn't read it very well. But also when you're talking now, I can't work out who you're talking about sometimes. So,
Yeah, I'm
so maybe if you said if I was the Russian, I wouldn't do that, or
no,
maybe that if I was the Ukrainian, I
yeah,
would do this or wouldn't do that.
yeah.
That really helps, I think.
If I was Ukrainian soldier,
Hmm.
I wouldn't ask the Russian soldier
Mm.
shoot me outside
Yeah.
because it's actually uh, a bit dangerous. He
Yeah, yeah.
could shoot him inside as well. You
Anyway,
mean?
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
When I read this, and again, I didn't read it very well. It seemed to me that one of the Russians' toes went gangrene, an illness or a disease, or I should say, an infection, really, isn't it? Quite a severe infection, potentially. Um,
But it is not a Russian gingery. It is Ukrainian gingery.
well, oh no, this is an illness. That word there is referring to an illness.
Yeah, but
Well, I say an illness,
in
an infection. Sorry, an
in
infection.
infection in Ukrainian soldier, yeah, it is not in Russian.
We just say when one of his toes. So he could be referring to himself, but I thought, maybe you're right. Let me read it again then. So I could see, I could see Nikita was a bit thick. If you say someone's a bit thick, you're sort of saying they're dumb, that they are dumb. Okay. I could see Nikita was a bit thick, but I gave the impression I was the stupid one. I could have run away, but I didn't, so he would trust me more. He said, that's Lieutenant saying that. Lieutenant said he started to lose it when one of his toes went black with gangrene, and and asked Nikita to shoot him outside so his body would be seen and returned to his family. He got angry and refused. He was afraid to go out because he knew it was dangerous, the Ukrainian replied. Do you know what? It isn't clear. I've read this twice now, and I'm still not 100% clear
Uh, uh,
who got the disease. What do you think, Michael?
yes, I think it's Ukrainian Latino finger gangrene in
Or
his
toe?
leg,
Yeah, toe.
toe,
Mm,
yeah. And I think Litunov said, I play dumb,
mm,
yes, but I start lose it. Because I
mm, mm.
I stopped play the dumb when my finger became black.
Gangrenous. Mm.
Yes, because it's very painful and
But you could equally say
finish
though.
play finished.
Mm,
I think in this sentence, let to know finished play the dumb when
mm,
his finger become black.
mm. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. But at the same time, so this little sentence here, Lieutenov said he. So when it says he, it's not clear even there who he's talking about. Is he talking about
Mhm.
himself, or is he talking about the Russian Nikita? I think you could say it's either way. The problem is we have quotes. So at certain points he's quoting, and at certain point it's the writer speaking, explaining the story. And so it's between the two. It's not entirely clear, what is happening to who. Um, so if we carried on, we might get another idea. It may give us a bit more detail. Okay. So gangrene is a very well known infection. Um, I think there's a couple of types. There's green. I think is it green? I think there's no. There's wet. There's wet and dry. I think gangrene. One is quite quick. One is a bit slower. But if you get gangrene and it's not dealt with, it is almost certain to kill you. Almost certain to kill you. But with gangrene, it's a very bad smell. There's lots of and often it is the color green. Maybe that's why it's got gren on the end of it. But let's carry on anyway. So let me read from here. I'll read this a little bit now. So meanwhile, Lieutenov's brigade, the 118th, thought he was most likely dead. His commander broke the news to his mother, Irena, and said it was 95% certain her son wouldn't come back. She fainted. My mother is small and frail. She just froze up and completely. She just froze up completely, he said, as anyone would if you hear your son's pretty much dead. Okay, let me carry on. By contrast, Lutyanov's wife, Alicia, the couple, have a 5-year-old son, Andrea, believed he was still alive. Her husband was an experienced fighter who signed up with the army hours after Vladimir Putin's February 2022 invasion, served in an air defense platoon, and took part in the liberation of Kherson. She continued to send him messages via telegram. So we still don't really know what's happened up there. So any questions about these little bits here? Do you want to correct me about the pronunciation of my names? I don't really know how to pronounce these names, but any sort of queries here? Okay, let's carry on then. Okay, so inside the shelter. So inside the shelter, Nikita gave his prisoner 1 square of chocolate a day and a bottle cap of water. So I read that as not a whole bottle of water, but just the cap. So he filled the cap with water, the top of the bottle of water, with a drip of water in there, and gave it to him to drink. But at least it's some water and some food, you could say, I guess. Okay, then it says, so the Russian started complaining about his miserable condition, the lack of food, and the fact that he and his fellow soldiers were forced to collect rainwater and drink their own piss. One morning he said to me, maybe I should surrender to you. Lutyanev said. I replied, no need. But I told him the terms were good. 3 meals a day, cigarettes, the Geneva Convention. So any questions about a little bit there? So obviously,
Actually, good,
yeah,
good condition for the for the Russian soldier.
good condition. Um, it
Yeah,
says,
I mean, yeah, about last sentences when he
mm,
told that the term were good. Yeah, it means
mm.
like a condition. Yeah,
Oh yeah, yes. So you're correct. Yes,
yeah, condition.
I gave him the terms. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
told him the terms were
and
good.
yeah, about protection as well. The
Hmm.
Geneva Convention. Yeah,
Geneva.
it's
That's it.
means that he would be protected. Yeah,
Well, certain protections. Yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Yeah. That's it. Well done. Okay. Okay. So I'll carry on from here then. So this conversation. So this conversation happened 5 times. Lutyanov said. Then one day he ran out of water. Nikita was really thirsty and said, I know a spot. He went out in the fog and heard a drone buzzing above us. So I said he, it's actually we. We went out in the fog and heard a drone buzzing above us. It was Ukrainian. We hung a sign next to a tree. It had my call sign on it, Cartman, from the cartoon South Park, which I guess is this thing here, and brigade number. I got down on my knees, pointed to the sign, and called out that I was a Ukrainian dude. Dude. So another word for man. Another word for man, dude. but the Americans use that much, much more than we do, I think. So this is obviously Cartman. Okay, so just interrupt me if you have a question or something. I'll carry on reading. But his brigade assumed both were Russian and sent another drone to kill them. Oh my goodness! It crashed. A second kill drone was cancelled only after the commander pulled up Lutenev's social media accounts and realized the emaciated figure was their lost comrade. Half an hour later, another drone appeared. I thought either this is Bang Right Now, the end, or the start of a new life, he recalled. So this is quite amazing as a story. So one moment they're both going to die and they don't know which it's going to be. And the next moment, obviously they hope it's going to be a new life, as he calls it, a new life. There's this word here, emaciated. So if you don't eat food for a couple of weeks, you will lose a lot of weight and you will see it in your face and in your shape of your body. So you'll be smaller, you will lose weight, and you will look emaciated. You will look emaciated. So it's normally how somebody looks. And normally it's a bad thing if you're emaciated. You've lost too much weight. You've lost too much weight, basically. So the word is emaciated. So when it says bang, obviously that's a killer drone getting them, I guess. So the next paragraph then. So a radio then fell from the drone. I told them about Nikita, and they started asking questions. Litvinov said, I tried to hint that they should stop, that I'm the prisoner, not him, and that my life depended on his mood. We ordered food and water straight away. So that's hilarious. So for some time they're getting food from the Russian side, and a little bit later they're getting food from the Ukrainian side. That's crazy. What an incredible story. So earlier it said about an astonishing story. So these are astonishing facts. Getting food from one side, food and water from one side, and then getting food and water from the other. Okay, so a drone dropped 4 boil-in-the-bag meals. He told Nikita he was unable to swallow and gave him his share. Was this manipulation again? Yes. He had told me that he had told me that when he was full, he was kind, he explained. There were further deliveries of nasty cigarettes. Meanwhile, a Russian drone delivered a booby-trapped bomb, a log with TNT hidden inside. Nikita was ordered to place it in the forest. Wow. So they're getting they're getting drones from both sides. Absolutely extraordinary. So TNT is a very well-known explosive. This is used in the Second World War. So trinitrotoluene, that stands for trinitrotoluene. That's the chemical name of the explosive. Very powerful. I think it was actually discovered in the First World War, I think, or even earlier, actually. Okay. So any questions, do ask. I don't know why it says nasty cigarettes, but it just says nasty. It might be that they both tried to smoke them, the cigarettes, but they perhaps left a bad flavour in the mouth, although they weren't anything like the normal cigarettes they were used to have, I guess, perhaps.
Or maybe it was something for the Russian soldier because of his addiction. So
Oh, possibly, yeah. So
nasty
they're
for
delivering
this
sort of
reason. So
a
maybe
minor drug supply, yeah. Yeah, it's possible, isn't it? I guess. Yeah. Okay. Or the Ukrainian just isn't used to the Russian cigarettes and finds them nasty. Yeah. So I carry on from up then, up until. So up until the last moment, Lutenov said he was unsure if Nikita would actually surrender or blow him up and the dugout and blow him and the dugout up. So they're still in the dugout then. Okay, right. One Friday, fog rolled into their position. So one Friday, fog rolled into their position, and a Ukrainian armored vehicle suddenly appeared. Two men jumped into the back. So the two men jumped into the back. Lutenov, still boot. I didn't believe until the last moment I would get out of there, he said. Incredible. Previously, Nikita had suggested he might try to capture the Ukrainian vehicle and drive it back to his base. In the end, he meekly surrendered and destroyed his phone. When they arrived at the brigade's HQ, Lieutenov said his people hugged and congratulated him, amazed at his return. He told his senior officer he promised the Russian he would be well treated. A video shows Nikita smiling and relieved, saying that he took Vadim prisoner. And I think we'll leave it there, otherwise we'll just keep on reading. So this seems to be the film of the event. But I've got it's not presumably it's in Russian, I guess, but I'm trying to switch the sound on, but it's happening.
Ты был в плену?
Нет.
Слушай, я увидел плен. Ты был в плену?
Нет.
Okay. Okay, so what do you think of that then? Any questions about the little bit I read there? I made lots of mistakes. I think I missed out the possessive s at the end there. So any other questions or anything you want to ask about there or talk about?
Will be meekly surrender.
Yes, meekly. So some people say that meekly and weakly are similar. And I understand what they're saying, but not really. They're not really. But there is, I can understand why they say that. So if you're meek, let's put it into the dictionary. That's better. So let's put the word meek in there. So if you're meek, you're not being. Let's just read it. So if you describe a person as meek, you think that they are gentle and quiet and likely to do what other people say. So you could say weak in a sense, but not really. So possibly submissive, soft, yielding, gentle. An example sentence down here has it as, most have meekly accepted such advice. Okay, so slightly more harshly, it says, if you're meek, you're also spineless. So it's sort of you have no strength of your own, no decisiveness of your own, that sort of says. Resignation, weakness, tameness, okay, submissive, resignation, submission, compliance. But you can be meek without being weak, I would say. I sort of disagree with the weak side of that. Originally, meek didn't mean anything like weak. It just meant being quiet. It meant more being quiet and submissive more than soft, than being sort of weak as such. So it's gradually turning into weak in a sense. Anything else there? So it says here that he was still bootless. So it said at the very beginning somewhere, in his socks. And I think you asked about that, Ruslan, didn't you? You said about in his socks. So it is basically saying he hasn't got his shoes on, but clearly he must have some more clothes on. But then again, when you scroll down to that picture of him here, well, when we saw him, he was wearing a blanket. So perhaps he didn't have many clothes or much in the way of clothing on. Let's just play
Yeah,
that
but
video.
I think when
Yeah.
you get a prisoner, one of the first things you do is to uh,
Mm.
take off
Yeah.
boots so they cannot
Yeah. Yeah.
escape or use their
Mm.
laces to do something. Yeah, it's a.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the
Whatever
way,
that jacket looks too big for
yeah.
him, doesn't it?
By the way, I have to go, but this article reminds me a movie.
Mm.
Uh, the title is Persian Lessons, and it is another story about mm, the
Mm.
way soldiers try to use to survive, and
Mm.
it's an interesting story also. And yeah, it is not similar, but uh,
It's
the
about
the movie,
soldiers. Yeah.
yeah, the movie shows
Mm.
how our brain, mind, and spirit can work together
Mm.
to uh,
Mm.
to make up something to survive.
Achieve a very difficult survival. Yeah.
Yeah,
So what
exactly.
was it
Yeah,
called again? Something lessons.
is Persian lessons.
Persian, the place.
Persian lessons. Yeah, it's Persia. Yeah, Persians.
Oh, Persians. Yeah.
Persian lessons. Persian lessons. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Okay.
Bye bye then.
Thank,
See you then.
thank you. Bye
Oh
bye,
yes,
everyone.
it's
Take
quite
care.
late, isn't it? Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, Giuseppe.
Bye bye. So I thought it was intriguing in the middle of the story somewhere where you mentioned about this, Ruslan, about where he talks about the letters from school children. So was it school? Yeah, right. So here we go. Yeah. So on the walls of the dugout were pasted letters from Russian school children. All were identical. So that's quite strange that. So why were they all identical? What was going on? Why would you send
It's simply
mm,
and it's plain because it's like this letter from school children. It's like letters from school children. It's like
mm,
um, it's doing for encourage the Russian troops or
yeah, yeah,
soldiers to
mm,
fight to protect their motherland from
mm,
enemies.
mm,
And why identical? Because
mm,
propaganda, teacher, for example, uh, for each class in the school, you must,
mm,
children must draw some pictures
mm.
and send to the
To the fighters. Mm,
fighters to the front line. Why identical?
mm,
Maybe they print, they copy this.
yeah. Mm. So the children may have copied down the same thing that the teacher put on the on the classroom wall. So children, copy what I'm writing
I
here.
think
This
I
is
think
good
he,
practice for you. Maybe like something
I,
like that.
I think it's not the
Yeah.
children even. I think it's
Oh, okay.
like it's like command from government, from,
Yeah.
for example, Minister of Education, that children must
Mm.
do this,
Oh, wow.
and teacher
Mm.
obey this
Command.
command
Yeah.
command, yes, and do this,
That's right.
and maybe copy, or I don't know, but it's quite very common practice when
Yeah.
children.
I thought it was interesting also. So when you were saying that, it was interesting. So it's nice, it's encouraging for the fighters on the front line to receive this letter. And so they feel I'm fighting for my motherland, as you said, and also fighting to protect these little children, well, young children, let's say, and they're relying on me. They've written this letter, and it sort of relies on it's saying I'm relying on you to carry on fighting, in a sense, isn't it?
Sorry that I
Hmm.
interrupt you.
Yeah,
I
go
want
for it.
to say a bit different version about
Hmm.
it.
Go for it. Yes.
First of all, I want to say this is a Russian soldier
Hmm.
uh, used to be a prisoner
Yes.
before, and
Yes.
he signed up contract go to the Ukraine to fight
Hmm.
instead of his instead to be free. And I guess it is his motivation first,
Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, it's actually it does not work for him like
Hmm.
these letters. I
Hmm.
think. Yeah, because he was like a prisoner, and
Hmm.
he uh, have um, have signed it,
Hmm.
uh,
So he signed a contract. He's forced
signed a
into it
contract, yeah, to
to
be
some
free,
degree.
and yeah,
Do you
it
say?
is
Oh, yeah.
not
Hmm.
it is not like a volunteer. I
Yeah.
guess people who go to fight, who go to fight in Ukraine by their choice, it is like a volunteer, and they
Hmm.
actually pay attention on like these letters. But this is guy no. And
Hmm.
a bit was made me surprised. It is that he was captured in Ukraine one time, and he
Hmm.
was sent it immediately second time
Hmm.
do his job,
Hmm.
and his commander name called like a
Hmm.
Chechen. It is not actually Russian. Yeah, it is actually not Russian soldier.
Hmm.
It is probably from Chechnya. Probably volunteer from Chechnya.
Chechnya.
It's, it
Chechnya.
is
Yeah.
it is country,
Yeah.
but I don't know how it say in English correctly.
Uh, uh, pretty much the same way you just said it. Yeah. So yeah, I think we say it as
Y-
on the screen, really. So Chechnya.
Yeah, Chechnya.
Well,
Yeah,
here,
and
here it's Chechen. Here it's Chechen. As
yeah,
the
and
person is a Chechen. Yeah. Carry on. Yeah. Carry on.
yeah,
Go.
and it is to my mind, it is very common that this is a soldier from Chechnya
Mm.
control a Russian soldier from prison. You know what I
Prisoners.
mean?
Yeah.
Prisoners, yeah,
Yeah. So,
prisoners, yeah.
so he's in. Is not. So you're saying it's unusual or not unusual for a Chechen to be in charge of Russian prisoners?
Is it actually
Yeah.
it is common
Mm.
common to be a commander of
Common.
prisoner,
Yeah.
not actually from how would say a regular soldier, a regular Russian soldier, but for the prisoner, it is very common because they behave probably in a how would say like in a strict way, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
Chechens are famous for being harsh on the Russian.
Yes, and that's why they,
Harsh.
yeah, yeah,
That's a harsh.
they are commander, yeah, of the prisoner.
Yeah. It sounds very believable. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I read that little bit again there. So this is about Nikita, the Russian. So he says he ran away from battle, got captured, and was sent back to the front. His commander, a Chechen, barked commands from a radio. Yes, amazing. Yeah. So it's an incredible story, that, isn't it?
Mm.
Um, and it's amazing that from both sides are sending them food and bombs at one point, and the Russian guy, hey, hide this explosive in the forest so that it blows up, while they're getting food from the other side. What a strange situation. That can't happen. Maybe it's happened quite a lot because main. It must be very crazy on the front line. But does this make you feel quite sad in a sense reading this story, or does it seem very believable, or where does it make you feel, this story? Do you hear this kind of
I
story all the time, or is it?
I watched some vi- real video
Mm,
when Russian troop, Russian soldier
mm,
uh, their killed his commander
mm,
in the front line because of lack of food, of water. So
yeah.
it's I
And
don't
giving
know.
them stupid orders, yeah.
Stupid orders, yes, but when it's I can imagine this situation when you are so uh, not disappointed, desperate,
Yeah, desperate, yeah, desperate.
desperate and
It's more desperate, desperate.
desperate. Yes,
Yeah.
when you drink your own
Mm,
urine because it's so, and you can do everything for your life, and so this this situation in this article, it sounds like some weird, but in real life when uh, bunch of drones every time drone kamikaze drones
mm.
are flying above you, so and without food, without drink, yes,
Mm.
it's
It's a crazy time, a crazy
it's a
place in a
crazy time,
crazy
and
time.
people can,
Mm,
as we see in this story, united to survive together
mm.
for surviving.
Surviving, yeah, surviving. So, so that's really where the word surreal comes in. We're saying crazy, surreal fits in very true there. It just seems everything's upside down. Nothing makes any sense. Wow.
So in the beginning of the story,
Mm,
we forget about this, but in the beginning of the story, the
mm,
friend or comrade,
mm.
uh,
Sasha.
main, Sasha, yes, was
Mm,
killed without leg. So I think it's a great, not great. It's a very huge impact to human brains when you see
mm.
uh, when you're
When you
close.
when you're confronted with something so terrible
Yes.
as one of your colleagues' legs being blown off in a sudden explosion. All explosions are sudden, really, but it is the terrible surprise of it, really, I suppose. Yeah, so it has a very deep psychological impact on you. For some people, they might collapse. They might have an immediate breakdown or a breakdown soon after. But a small number of people just cope with it very well, surprisingly well. Of course, a number of people end up suffering from PT, P, PTSD.
PTSD,
Yeah, PTSD. Yeah.
but it depends on your nervous system and on your stress level, um,
Mm.
on your how long
Ah, yes.
you
Mm.
been uh, how long
Exposed.
exposed stress. Yes, but yes, sometimes you can cope. you have enough nervous, I don't know how to say, enough, you can cope with this torn legs, died bodies. But when your mm, neuron neurons and nervous system uh, exhausted, yes, exhausted.
Yes.
Even small stress event, something can cause PTSD. So I would say even very strong people who can cope with stress, with bad things very well.
Mm.
If this person, if this person exposure continues, uh,
Mm.
some stress, some
S-
mm,
So that
chemical.
if they're exposed too much, if they're overexposed,
Yes, yes,
they can't
overwhelmed,
cope. They
overwhelmed
get to a
with.
point where it's beyond what they can cope with. And at that point, they might then start to suffer with PTSD. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
Something similar to
yes.
that, yeah. So with the word exposure, we also talk about in photography. So you might have a photographic plate, you expose it to the light, and that is how you create a photograph. It gets used in quite a few ways, but you could also talk about not exposed to light. Maybe in this case, we're talking about being exposed to the pressure of the situation, being exposed to the pressures of war causing these issues. So yeah, there we go. Well, that is it's sort of quite disturbing in a way. Some of the bits here, but this is happening pretty much all the time at the moment, isn't it? So this guy is suffering this all the time, pretty much. Well, not just this one guy, but many other guys too. So I didn't mention, but this is in the Guardian. This story is here. So maybe we'll end it at this point. So I'll end it there. So so thanks very much, guys, for coming. I'll just
Thank
stop the
you.
recording.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.